50 Shades of Grey. It was a cultural phenomenon a few years ago, and E.L. James's Twilight fanfiction turned bondage extravaganza sadly spawned not only 5 books, but...
He guides his hands across my secret garden.
...a trilogy of films. And I have also sadly watched all of these films. Today I won't be talking about all of these films because I'm not planning on killing myself today, but I'm talking about the main one. Talking about the first one, not the utter shit that is 50 Shades Darker, not the utter shit that is 50 Shades Freed, but the utter and absolute absurdity that is 50 Shades of Grey. So, the general story of the first film, the narrative of the film, centres around Anastasia Steele and how her life is turned upside down through her meeting with billionaire rich boy Christian Grey. Anyway, let's stop beating around the bush about this film and get into it. Spoilers, by the way, for those people that care. The opening titles, I want to talk about very quickly first, appear with a cover of Screaming Jay Hawkins' classic I Put a Spell on You, performed by Annie Lennox. Now this begins the construction and reinforcement of Christian Grey's dominance and power over Anna, specifically through the notion that he puts a spell on her, as in she falls head over heels in love with him on first sight. And because your mind further indicates a sense of ownership and therefore constructs Anna as property or even an object to Grey. Admittedly, this is one of the few things in the films which I like. It does set the tone, at least, and admittedly, following this, one of the few things I like about this film comes again quite early in the film, and that's the use of parallel scenes to convey the differences between both characters. So Christian lives in a big city, his wealth is clearly portrayed through his material possessions of clothing, and furthermore his face being omitted creates this sense of mystery around him. This is all, good things that gets you intrigued a little bit. Anna, instead, is portrayed as a normal, run-of-the-mill, average Joe character, going to school, wearing plain clothing, nothing spectacular. And as she enters Seattle, she is audibly surprised and exclaims her surprise at the size of the city and how different it is to her humble beginnings. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but all of the things I've just said about the film, which I quite enjoy, they're all basic things in terms of filmmaking. Nothing I've said here is groundbreaking, and most of this can be found in a lot of generic to critically acclaimed movies. And while I'm giving this film praise, I will say one of the positive aspects of these films, not only this one, is the set design and costume design. Again, these are very basic things. Throughout the video, hopefully if I don't get copyright striked, you should see footage of the film, and you should see for yourself how genuinely good some of the set design and costume design is. I'm not saying it's Oscar-worthy, I'm not saying it's groundbreaking, but with a barrel of shit, at least the barrel is keeping the shit away from the carpet, you know what I'm saying? Then comes the first meeting between Christian and Anna, and somehow, it doesn't make sense. This bit doesn't make sense, but somehow she falls. She somehow falls. Now, to me, this isn't intended to be comical. Maybe it is, and it is funny perhaps in a certain way, but perhaps not in the way it was intended to be. I don't know. But most interestingly, this is their first meeting in which Anna is on her knees. And this is very suspect to me. This is very, as the kids say, sus. I don't think this was intended to entirely be a coincidence. You see, Anna will go on to be Christian's submissive, or some form of that, at the very least, which entails him dominating her in a sexual way. This is like the entire crux of the film. If this is a surprise to you, you have got a lot of things coming. This is the first, and I want to say, subtle part of the film, but this film doesn't really do subtlety. And it's the first subtle moment which presents her and foreshadows her in this kind of submissive way. And of course, as she first sees his face, the zoom and the prolonged shot of her eyes, wide and mouth gaping open, we get the first inference that she is, let's say, interested in Mr. Grey. Now here I want to draw quick attention to Dakota Johnson's performance and portrayal of Anna as she goes through the series. She plays the character, especially in this film, in such a way where she's quite quiet, shy, almost speaking in a very gaspy tone for the majority of the film, and seemingly flustered, specifically in the way her voice shakes as she first speaks to Christian, and this is especially, as I said, in this movie.
I'm Anastasia Steele.
And this is, at times, while it is reminiscent of Kristen Stewart in Twilight, and I'm probably going to bring up Twilight again, while it is reminiscent of that kind of one-note performance, at least it fits her character, and she does a pretty good job of it. Christian, in contrast, is just a piece of cardboard for most of the film.
I see. So you're studying journalism as well?
We see again the power dynamic at play through camera positioning. Again, this is a very basic thing in films that every film or a lot of films across the board do. So you see Christian is slightly in a higher position in the frame looking down on Anna, and Anna is slightly lower in the frame looking up. This is also evident in his height while at his desk, and while in contrast to Anna in the chair. This then becomes more obvious when Christian moves seats and sits over her on his desk, again reasserting his power over her in this scene. Not only is he, of course, this suave, handsome, man, but he's also rich and powerful where she is just interviewing him. And within this interview itself, there's a few examples of double entendres, which I want to pick out. Specifically, I'm going to have to read all these, aren't I? Oh. I exercise control in all things, and I enjoy various physical pursuits. To me, this is basically a way of going kind of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the audience, where the filmmakers are going, you see? They're going to have sex. They're talking about sex. Also, I'm just going to slip in that she says, when asked about why she's an English literature student, why she is so into literature, why she loves literature, the one writer that made her fall in love with literature was Thomas Hardy. Now, I might be thinking too deeply about this, but, I'll let you think of that. And you have to think that the filmmakers specifically chose the guy whose last name is related to cock in some way. It might be my dirty mind, it might be, but, I might be thinking too deeply into it. Anyway, then there's a scene where Anna and her roommate Kate talk about the meeting. Specifically, Anna tries to skirt around the idea that Christian is hot, whereas Kate keeps trying to crack her to make her spill out that Anna actually finds him attractive. It's honestly really riveting. This is British sarcasm. Anyway, we learn that she does, because Anna looks at Kate's laptop at images of Christian and bites her lip. This biting of the lip is basically a motif which we use throughout the film, and we've already seen it once at this point where she looks at herself in the mirror prior to their meeting. My take is that this is a signal of desire or lust in some way, brought on by Christian or other means. Now again, I might be thinking too deeply into this film, but within the next scene we have a moment where Anna is distracted in a lesson of hers, and we get a close-up of her mouth and the pen or pencil which was given to her by Christian with his name inscribed on the side, and she bites her lip. To me, this is a phallic image, and again foreshadows, or at the very least enforces, the desire and lust that is growing within Anna for Christian. If you don't know what a phallic image is, basically it's a symbol or object, or the placement of an object, that resembles a cock, and it also symbolises power. It symbolises, or it can symbolise power. It doesn't necessarily symbolise power, but it can symbolise power. In my opinion, this just symbolises Christian's dominance over her, or at least foreshadows the dominance over her. Okay, it's getting a bit repetitive, I admit, but hear me out. I might be looking too deeply into this, I might have a dirty mind, but she also works in a hardware store. A hardware store. I spoke to my mate about this. I spoke to my mate when I was talking about this film, and he didn't agree with me. So maybe it's just me. And maybe reading my script again, it doesn't really work. But I'll let you decide for the most part. Then bam, out of fucking nowhere, right? We're in this hardware store. She's asked to go and do something. Do a job basically. Pretty normal stuff. Then bam, out of fucking nowhere, literally out of nowhere, Christian is there, just standing there in a random aisle. Right, and scares the absolute shit out of her. Right, I mean, this is just insane. Surely a better way of doing this would have been, number one, if you wanted to film this scene better. And I'm not a filmmaker. And listen, I'm sure that Sam Taylor Johnson, the director of this film, has directed some great films. I don't know. I've never seen anything else they've made. But listen, surely a better way of doing this scene would have had him been bumping into her either in the street or in the shop, or at least something like that, like just randomly bumping into her, rather than him just standing there like a melon and waiting for her to turn around the corner. Like, was he just waiting? I don't get it. Then we go through a sequence where Anna assists Christian in picking out a few items that he wants for some reason. This is filled with, and I don't really think it deserves this, but again, quote-unquote sexual tension in the broadest possible terms. First is cable ties. He asks for cable ties. Then it's masking tape. Then rope. Anna correctly, and this is the most realistic the most realistic thing said in the entire film, is, "You're the complete serial killer." To which he suspiciously replies with, "Not today. I would be calling the police. Or at least I would be calling someone. I'd be calling, I don't know. I'd be calling someone to get me the fuck out of there, bro. You know?" However, he then asks Anna if he would recommend anything else, to which she says coveralls, basically to protect your body, like dungarees type thing, but like an apron. Because if Christian was a normal human being, he'd obviously reply with the normal, he'd be like, he'd obviously say, "I could just take all my clothes off." Oh wait, that's not what a normal human being says, is it? No normal human being has ever said that, unless they are in a relationship. These people are not in a relationship. They haven't had any time together apart from an interview. Unrelated, but as Anna's packing up his items, the other dude who works with her just kind of comes and fills her up. This is addressed again, kind of somewhat in the film, but it's not like really rectified. It's not addressed as in why did he come and fill you up? It's more like, oh, is he your boyfriend? It's very odd. Then they go for coffee the next day, and yet again, Christian's excessive and controlling behaviour is on full display as he opens and then tells Anna to eat a muffin. Again, just very controlling stuff. This might seem to be a minor thing, however, it's one of the many instances where we see Christian controlling everything that Anna does, or at least attempting to. And basically, this is a massive fucking red flag, and she should probably get out of there, really. "I'm used to getting my own way" is also used here to present this line of thought. Basically, he's a control freak in every sense of the word. If you're unpacking someone's muffin, bro, if cooking for someone, cooking on a first date, that's fine, But unpacking someone's muffin and then telling them to eat it, bro, get a day job, mate. Anna and Christian then talk further. It comes out that Anna is like her mother, a romantic, and Christian can't be having that, so he says he'll walk her out. Again, this is just very bizarre behaviour. This guy doesn't get out at all, apparently. However, to me, when he quickly saves Anna from the danger that is a cyclist going probably at 10 miles per hour, this is the first real flashback or echo to Twilight we get. If you remember the scene in the first Twilight film where we see Edward and Bella, yes, I know their names off the top of my head. Edward saves Bella from an oncoming car or something, and it's just a little less impressive, Like, at least Twilight had the balls to be, stupid and, own it. This film just kind of goes, oh, it's a cyclist. A cyclist can't kill you. It'll bruise your leg, It'll bruise your leg. It won't do anything serious, though. Also, while I'm on the topic, Twilight is genuinely better than these three films. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like them, but at least they are so bad it's funny at times. At least there's humour to these. The second and third films are honestly just boring. The second one especially, everything that is absurd about this film just dries up. Anyway, they are in each other's arms. She's overcome with something, and he is very clearly gearing up for a snog, but instead says, "I'm not the man for you, you should steer clear of me. I have to let you go." Which again just presents her as an object, employee, or Christian as master over her, as if she is so enchanted by him. Christian then sends first edition copies of a few Hardy books to Anna as an apology. This is one of many times within the series where he will use material possessions to woo Anna or to rein her back in. Interesting how Christian told her to stay away from him, but he's the one giving her things. It's interesting. Just saying, Christian, get a life. She gaggles over them for a while, and then we head to the bar, where Anna gets drunk and drunkenly calls Christian. Now here, two things of note happens. One is minor, and the other is major. So Christian takes offence, or at least is a little perturbed by Anna being drunk. Now this comes back later in the film within the contract, which I'll talk a little bit about in a bit, within which it says that she cannot drink to excess, etc., right? But basically it's just something he can control eventually, or at least wants to control. The other is him ordering her to first go home, and then him finding out the exact bar where she's at, probably by tracing her number or literally stalking her. What? Remember, these guys are meant to come into like a major relationship. I've just hit my mic twice. Ignore the mic hits, okay? I'm talking about 50 Shades of fucking Grey. It's important shit, okay? Listen, these people are gonna be in a relationship. How can you be in a relationship with someone when they've literally stalked you? Admittedly, at least he's caring for it. Like at least that's like one silver lining. You know, one silver lining in this fucked up story is that he's caring for her. But is it care or is it control? That's the thing I want to leave you with. Anyway, Anna eventually faints, and we head to the worst scene in the entire movie. Anna wakes up in a hotel room, and let's get the good out of the way. There's a nod to Alice in Wonderland with the eat me, drink me notes, and honestly, this is a genuine good use of an intertextual reference. The story of Alice falling rapidly down and into the world of Wonderland, similarly to how the normal and anodyne Anna has fell into the world of Christian. You know, it's at least some subtlety. You know, it's a bit. You know, you could argue it's on the nose, but who cares? You know, listen, I will take a grain of subtlety in this mountain of shit, bro. However, on another level, these are both imperatives and are once again orders given by Christian. Speaking of, he comes back from a run, as we saw in the opening scenes, and he's sweaty. This is important. I'm not just saying he's sweaty. Trust me, I'm not just pointing out he's sweaty, okay? I am not just pointing out he's sweaty. It's important. Now, the reason I say this scene is the worst in the entire film is because of the absurdity of it. And this is the scene that made me want to make this video. But also, it's because of how stupid this scene is. So, there's plenty of other shit scenes in this film. There's genuinely bad scenes, right? Like, genuinely bad scenes that other people on this website have argued for and argued against, I should say, and have come to a conclusion that they are bad scenes, right? This is just cringe to me. However, this one just makes me cringe. It really just makes me cringe, okay? So Christian takes his top off, right? Revealing his body. I mean, what else would it reveal? You know, let's be honest. And says, I shit you not. Right, it's not just that he takes off his clothes, right? It's not just that he takes off his clothes. Hear me out, okay? And he says, I shit you not, if you were mine, you wouldn't be able to sit down for a week. Then crawls like a cat, a panther, a tiger a feline of some description, or maybe a dog, I don't know, but I went with cat in my mind, onto the bed and takes a big old chomp, a big old out of the toast, right? This is the reason I decided to make a video on this film. And then he acts like it's normal and leaves. What? However, this scene is made 10 times worse, and the abhorrent part to me is because of this, right? Is that it's made clear that Christian both undressed and then redressed Anna in her sleep, who, bear in mind, was both drunk and unconscious, or who was at least unconscious. Their relationship hasn't even really been established here, in my view. So this is a crime. This is basically a crime. If these two were in a loving relationship, this would probably be okay. You know, if you were caring for someone, if you had that rapport with other people, if you knew each other's boundaries, that's fine. But these two aren't. They don't trust each other, or there hasn't been anything built. There hasn't been any foundation here built that they can do this to each other. However, these two quote-unquote lovebirds have only known each other for a minimum of a week, if not less than that. This is a crime. What? The idea of crime in this movie just is totally ignored, and I will get onto that soon. A few moments later, Anna is dressed and ready to leave. Christian says that he'll get his bodyguard to pick her up later, who is the best character in the entire series, okay? He does fuck all, but listen, Taylor, I feel sorry for you. I do feel sorry for you. You are my favourite character in this entire film. And then after which she bites her lip. He says, I would like to bite that lip. Bear in mind their relationship is built on a foundation of literally nothing. He saved her from a bike and put her in a hotel room and basically abused his power being sober over her when she was drunk. I guess they're madly in love, right? They're truly madly in love, you know? That's sarcasm, by the way, again. Then they have their first kiss in an elevator, and I won't really be talking too much about the intimate scenes. There's one I want to talk about towards the end of the film, but it's interesting in this one how he throws her arms up, which becomes another visual motif throughout the trilogy, and I imagine it presents her as submissive and him as dominant, only serving as a visual reminder of that again. You know, this constant referral and this constant reinforcement of him being in power and her being submissive. Also, just a brief side note. This is some very odd editing. This is just a very, very small thing. But they stop smooching as the door opens, right? A few guys in suits are on the other side. They then look at the pair in an odd way, stopping talking in the process when they're not doing anything. When the two they're not smooching, they've already stopped smooching, so they're just looking at them weirdly. Again, maybe this is just me again, and this is an odd thing to include, and it'd have made more sense if they were at least playing tongue wars with each other, but they're just not. And the thing is, this is just like a piece of editing which just is very weird. Like, this is a mainstream film. Please get better at editing your shit. I know this video isn't a masterpiece of editing, but listen, I'm not getting paid by, like, I'm not getting paid by Paramount or whoever's making this film, bro. Get off my back. Anyway, Anna is picked up by Taylor, absolute Chad, by the way, and then is taken to Christian, and we get a scene where she is amazed at his personal helicopter, with a montage of them flying across to Seattle with an Ellie Goulding song playing over it. This is an ungodly, emotionless scene, flying over misty, dark docks and rustic, boring architecture as a song about love plays when the two characters' love hasn't even been constructed yet, let alone flourished. Like, there's literally nothing. Okay, from this point on, you have to basically take it as they are in love and go with it, and it never really gets explained. And admittedly, there are moments in later films which helps show their love better. There are genuinely kind of some cute moments towards the end of the films, but or the other films in the trilogy, but listen, in this film, it's just dry. And the thing is, this is another moment where Christian will use his power or use his material possessions to woo her in some way. Then they reach Christian's penthouse, and as soon as she asks if he plays the piano, I clocked it. I thought that we would be getting a piano scene of him playing it, and there was no way that this film, this schlock, this mainstream Hollywood shit tier asswipe of a film, it wouldn't give us a cheesy moment like that, right? I knew that we would be getting a piano scene of him playing the piano. Then Anna has to sign an NDA, which is a normal thing, apparently, for Christian, normal thing, get a day job, mate. And she asks, are you going to make love to me now? Christian replies with, I don't make love, I fuck hard. I'm really glad I got that out of the way in the script. Charming, by the way. Also, I've had to read that like 3 times in this edit. I don't like reading that line. It's terrible. But it's a charming line. It's a charming line, isn't it? Again, sarcasm. Now we finally get to the bit most people have been waiting for. I mean, if you've been waiting for Danny Trejo to appear, or perhaps as a good plot point, I'm sorry, but this isn't the movie for you. I'd like it if Danny Trejo was Christian Grey. That would actually make for good viewing. It'd be funny. It would actually be funny. Please make these films again with Danny Trejo in. That would actually be great. We finally, however, we're not seeing Danny Trejo. We're finally getting to the Red Room, which is Christian's bondage playroom. Again, set design's pretty good. That's literally all I can say about this film. It's literally all I can only comment on how good the set design is of this film and how good the costume design is. That is literally the only solid things throughout the film. Like, even the music becomes overbearing at times, and it's made by Danny Elfman, bro. It's made by Danny Elfman. Really fell off, bro. The main part I want to highlight here is the transaction being proposed. Christian proposes to Anna that he, a sadist, will be able to use all of these instruments on her to punish her, yet to pleasure him. In return, Anna receives him. Okay, listen, I get he's conventionally hot. Okay, I get that. And she gets a big house and a lot of money, but is it worth it? Is it worth it? Really? Like, is that all? He makes himself out as this big prize, to get spanked about 3 times a week. Is that it? He even follows up this conversation by showing her the room she would get as well. And this, to me, screams coercion, or at the very least is presenting the idea that people can easily be won over by materialistic goods in favour of sex or a relationship. And this, in my view, forms the basis of their relationship as an entirety. I've already mentioned how we've seen already when Anna is a bit unsure, or Anna's a bit, she doesn't really know where she stands, or she's a bit, she's a bit shy. What happens is he will show off his material possessions, and we see this throughout the film. We see her get angry at times, and it's completely forgotten in space of him using material possessions to coerce her back in. After he shows her the bathroom, we get the first mention of the contract. Now, the contract is a bit like the NDA, but it's a bit bigger and it takes up a lot more time. It's a tract which Anna will have to sign in order to become his submissive, therefore entering into the relationship officially, quote unquote. This is a MacGuffin, and it will now form the basis of the film as we go along until we reach the point where she makes her decision. Now, I call this a MacGuffin because ultimately Christian has already snogged her without her without signing the NDA beforehand. So really, any paperwork isn't really useful or necessary. It just serves the plot to move forward. It doesn't really have any bearing, and it also will have no bearing as we enter the final stages of the film as well. I'll get to that, do not worry. Then comes the first sex scene of the film. Again, I won't be talking too much about it because there's literally nothing too much to say about it. But I think what Mark Kermode said, admittedly, I think this is about the second film. When I'm reading the script, I think it's about the second film. But it stands here as well. I do think it stands here as well.
I have to say that I just watched it thinking this is fantastically ordinary with some very, very bad writing, some fairly poor performances, although it's probably unfair to blame the actors because the dialogue is so terrible. Directed absolutely with a sort of pop video gloss sheen sensibility, which every moment that anything happens that requires any emotional engagement, there's a pop song that explains it to you, including a moment in which we hear So Lonely, or as I always hear, Sue Lawley, because that was what we all heard at the time. And it's just like, I know he's lonely. You know, I have been watching this for the best part of however long it is, and you didn't really need to point that out.
Basically, in my view, the sex scene, especially the scene showing commodity, is very music video-esque. They're romanticising what's going on the screen in a really glossy way, even though what's going on the screen isn't really like amazing or groundbreaking or interesting by any means. It's just put in and shown in a really glossy way. However, all isn't bad, as guess what? I called it. He's playing the piano, and I fucking knew it. I knew he was going to play the piano. That is the best moment of the film. I'm a wrestling fan, and listen, there's a thing called a pop. A pop is like a big cheer, a big like moment. You know, when you're really entertained, you go, "Way!" You know, John Cena's there, do, and you know, and all that. When that happened, I audibly, I popped. I was like, yes, you know. Some people, you know, they were popping in different ways in this film, but I popped when he was playing the piano. You know. Side note, we then meet Christian's adoptive mother, who I will say does a pretty good job across the films. I think she's okay in this film, but she does get better as the films go along, in terms of acting anyway, and as to be fair, many of the supporting cast does. It's only really Jamie Dornan who does a terrible job, or not. It's not terrible, but it's just it's cardboard. You know, it's cardboard. I describe it as cardboard. You know, it's not. It's nothing. You know. Side note, there's one thing I want to mention here after the conversation. So Anna goes back into her potential room, and there's this one piece of set design, and who knew? Set design. I'm falling in love with set design in this film. It's made me love set design. Or more accurately would be the mise en scène, probably. Well, it's a bit of the both. They're basically the same thing, right? And there's within the wallpaper this small image of a bird inside a cage with the door open. Now, this is a minor thing, but in my view, it's reflective of Anna and her current state, perhaps trapped, but also has an opportunity to leave before signing a contract. It's small, but at least it's like a crumb of like something interesting, and that's something that this film doesn't really have, is a lot of bread. I don't know what that metaphor was, but I'm running with it. Who cares, bro? Then there's a conversation between Christian and Anna, within which we see doubts over the red room for Anna herself, who sees it as a room of pain. She then also asks if they'll be something like a normal couple, for example, like going on dates, to which Christian says he's not like that and he doesn't do that sort of thing. As we've already seen, he didn't like the comment of her being a romantic. So then I ask, what again is there for Anna in this relationship outside of sex? She isn't at this moment getting what she wants, which is, in my view, a relationship really can't be one-sided. One person can't have all the fun. She isn't getting really nothing of value out of it outside sex and some pearl bed sheets. Christian then says, if you agree to be my submissive, I will be devoted to you. Except she still wants to go to the movies, and so that's not exactly true, is it, Christian? You know, you might be devoted to her, but are you really that devoted to go and watch Jungle Cruise with her? You know? Come on, bro. Admittedly, within this scene, as I said, Anna she does fight back a little, and Christian's attempts to subdue the conversation don't work, with Anna wanting to go home. This is good. This actually provides tension, and at least she's not just like willfully going along with everything. That's something I thought would happen in the film. She willfully goes along with everything. In fact, there's a little bit of pushback. It's a little bit, but you know. However, when he is about to take her home, they enter a garage, and she asks which one is his, and of course he replies with all of them. Cue the radio, time to crank up the mainstream music because we're getting another materialistic montage. I'm sorry, I cringed when I wrote that and I'm still cringing, but listen, who gives a fuck, bro? Long wide shots of the car on a motorway, and of course, gotta get that Audi logo on show. Instead of taking her home, Christian takes Anna to an unknown location in the middle of the woods. Again, she said she wanted to go home. She doesn't complain. This is very odd. This is very odd, okay? And speaking of odd, I mentioned the criminal acts done by Christian before, but this is the scene which I kind of threw my shit at. So, basically, within the scene in the middle of the woods, we get a bit more understanding of Christian's life and his background and where his sadism really comes from. We learn that one of his mother's friends, when he was 15, introduced him to this, and he was her submissive. Again, this is illegal. She's literally a paedophile, right? She's a child abuser. So Anna's reaction is there. There is a reaction there, but it's very subdued, right? It's really subdued. And admittedly, it does crop up again, this idea of her, not agreeing with it and whatever. But the thing is, it's never rectified. The woman never goes to prison. In the other film, she never goes to prison. She gets away with it. And Christian is never confronted on it properly. There is never a proper confrontation, sit down. There's never anything like that. He never gets any help for this at all. There's nothing, okay? But Anna's reaction at this point is just subdued. But this part is just never addressed. This idea that he has been abused by a woman when he was very young, it's never addressed. The fact that a fully grown woman seduced a child is just never addressed. Or at least if it is addressed, it's not addressed enough. It's just ignored. It's just completely ignored. E.L. James, I don't even care if that's a pen name, bro. Your writing is dog shit. It's terrible. Bro, get psychiatric help, please. I beg of you. And then we find out that he literally talks to her. He still talks to her. Christian Grey still talks to his abuser, right? What the fuck? Okay? And bear in mind, this is the woman. This is the woman that abused him at 15 years old. They are friends. What? They are friends. I will repeat that again. They are friends. What? E.L. James, I'm sorry, mate, but you need a refund. You need a refund. A refund, mate. I need a refund. So then, Christian then uses this story of him being abused as a child, and also saying that he is still friends with the woman. Like, it would be different if, like, he tried to get more personal with Anna and tried to, like, and was like, and opened up to her in this way, and was like, listen, I got abused, whatever. But it's not that way. He doesn't ask for help. He doesn't ask for sympathy. He doesn't ask for anything like that. He uses this story of getting nonced on as an attempt to try and get Anna to go along with his fantasy, saying, I know how intimidating this is at first, bro, you need to go to therapy. Like, honestly, bro, you need to go to therapy. Please, like, take a day off. Go to therapy. Go to one session. It's fine. It's all right. We're here for you, Oh, side note, we learn, I think, in the second film that Christian targets brunette girls because that's what his mother looked like. So it gets worse. It gets worse. And yet again, he tries to egg her into doing something, into going along with his sadism, by saying, I've never taken anyone into the helicopter or had sex in my bed. Yet again, he's using material possessions, he's using his wealth and his own body to lure and coerce women into doing something that they're clearly not sold on, that Anna is completely not, that she's not down for, or at least completely she's got her worries about it. Oh, Anna, by the way, speaking of reactions, I'm not overreacting, bro. I might be overreacting in some cases, but listen, Anna, she underreacts like Christian Stewart, echoes of Christian Stewart. She smiles at this, which shows she is flattered by it. Right? This sends very bad messages. It's like, you're abused, you're a nonsense, you're still friends with her. Oh, but you've got a chopper and you let me in it. All right, mate. They then kiss. She gets taken home. He then gives her the contract, and Anna's previous attempts to fight back have been successfully subdued by Christian in a really weird way. Please get help, honestly. Side note again, pretty decent mise-en-scène. I know that's the fucking worst segue, but listen, okay, I had to get there somehow. There's some decent mise-en-scène here with the use of butterflies as Anna and her roommate talk about her looking and feeling different as she's growing and coming out of her shell a little from the quiet Anna we saw at the start of the film. This film can do subtlety at times, and that's why it's not the worst of the three. Even the messaging is dog shit and the story is ass, at least the mise en scene's alright. You know, there's every cloud. You know, every cloud, even every cloud, even the thinnest of silver lining. Christian has also bought her a new laptop through which they will confer, but also, as he says in his first message to her, he wants her to use it for research into the kink, the BDSM. We then get a few scenes where Christian narrates the contract as Anna reads through it. Through this montage, we see Christian becoming more and more impatient with Anna, and also Anna's own doubts being shown as she researches more into the kink. Finally, she sends a message which reads, "It was nice knowing you," which shows that she isn't into it and won't be signing the contract. So what does Christian do? He breaks into her house with a bottle of wine and yet again scares the shit out of her. Anna doesn't complain at all. And then guess what? They have sex. Because sex resolves everything in this film. Sex, or cars, or some other possession, some other piece of plastic. And not that plastic. Also, of course, it's time to crank up that radio, you know. Crank up that radio, which has been sitting in your garage. Crank it back up, because there's more mainstream music that probably came out in the months before the film. Again, to use as like emotional music for the sex montage. Again, music video. After which, Christian brings up the contract again in conversation, because of course he does, and when Anna says she hasn't made up her mind, he gets up and starts putting his clothes back on, showing that all he really cares about is her signing that contract, being under his thumb, being in his control. Of course, in a normal relationship, you don't need a contract, you know, but you just need to be open and talk to your partner. But obviously Christian is a control freak, so, you know, just be open with the person you apparently love, bro. It's not hard. It might be hard in your, you know, if you don't know them well, which you do not. Talk to them, please, just once. Apart from a contract, it's easy, bro. There's a scene which follows this that I won't get too much into, but basically it's where Anna and Christian go over several issues Anna has with the contract. They have like a business meeting, a board meeting. There isn't much to talk about here, but it at least does show that Anna has some level of power within the relationship. Oh, and also this kind of sets up, or at least echoes within a scene in a future film where Anna has the courage to speak out in a business meeting at her future job. It's not explicit, but it's my own inference really, so take that how you will. Again, it's only minor. He does, however, throw in the terms that they'll go on a date once a week, which is somewhat nice. Maybe. I mean, it's probably more than the average couple do in a month, let's be honest, you know? But, you know, but again, you know, they shouldn't need a contract to do this. This should just be normal shit they do. And if, like, one of them doesn't want to go out dating isn't for them, go and find someone who doesn't want to, like, date either. Christian then ends the meeting by saying, "I'd like to fuck you into the middle of next week." Again, this is charming behaviour, you know? Absolutely charming behaviour from Christian Grey. Anna, however, after Christian attempts to have sex with her again, leaves, and then says he'll know soon what her decision is. Again, this is at least showing that she has some semblance of power dragging out the contract part. But all it does is it drags out the fucking time that this film takes to finish, bro. It spends so long, this contract shit. Also, haven't really dedicated any time really to breaking down the dialogue and how bad it is, but this sequence around 5 minutes long is probably one of the worst in the film. It's fucking terrible. Like, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, go and find it, but it's fucking ass, bro. Fuck me. Anyway, Anna graduates, they celebrate, and by celebration, I mean that Christian buys her a new car. Yeah, that's nice. But he sells the old one without asking. No, that's normal. Fast forward a bit more, they go to the red room, full around music players, etc., etc. You know, nothing. Again, it's so monotonous at this point. This film just grinds to a halt at this point. They do have a pretty cute moment where they dance together to Sinatra, which is one of the only scenes in the film which, in my view, shows a connection between them that isn't genital. They then go to Christian's parents' house for a meal, which was set up earlier in the film. However, again, I just want to highlight one part here, where Anna says that she's going to see her mother tomorrow, and Christian isn't very happy about that. Again, the controlling and abusive nature of Christian is shown, and if not in a subtle way, controlling every aspect of Anna's life, who she sees and where she goes. He even takes her to a secluded area in the family grounds, spanks her, and then says, "You're mine, all mine, you understand." This is like such a small and minor thing to get mad over, bro. Like, get a life. Honestly, get a life or get help. One of the two. Please, just get a life, mate. And at this point, I'm unsure whether or not anything of substance happens. you might have noticed my analysis has at times got thinner and thinner. You know, some moments I've been going into the structural complexities of a scene and, you know, being very pretentious. And then other times I've just been like, they've had sex. And that's because nothing of value is happening. Nothing of interest is happening. She goes to see his parents, then they talk, then she goes to see her mum. Christian does reveal a little bit about his upbringing, but he speaks to Anna while she's asleep, so it's only really for the audience. However, while there, Anna texts Christian saying she misses him. He then says that he's having dinner with a friend, to which she replies, "With who, Mrs. Robinson?" Christian, obviously, an understanding and caring person who really cares about the feelings of Anna, puts her mind at rest with a, "Don't worry about it." Obviously, I'm being sarcastic here. This is clearly just going to make her worried and paranoid about what he's doing, especially as if we remember Mrs. Robinson, which is the name given to the woman who abused him as a child. Not only are they friends, not only do they know each other, he's going for dinner. He's going for a round of oysters, some caviar, and probably some cheese dip. I don't know what they have, bro. I don't know what rich people eat. That's the woman he's going to see. He's going to fondue with her, bro. That's what I'm thinking of. Fondue. He's going to go fondue her, bro. Then Christian tracks Anna down to the restaurant or whatever they're in Atlanta. Literally, again, what are you doing, bro? Also, Anna's mum really cannot tell her daughter that she's clearly uncomfortable here with Christian being here. Instead, she just leaves him alone. This is, like, really confusing. Like, very clearly, Anna doesn't want him there, or at least is uncomfortable, visibly uncomfortable with him there, or like shocked, which at least on her part, you know, we actually see some semblance of them having some disagreement. We have a semblance of them not getting along. But the issue is here is that her mum just doesn't recognise this. Anna then asks how his dinner was with Mrs. Robinson, to which he simply replies, "She's a friend." And then finally we get some sort of recognition that she's a child abuser, with Anna literally calling her a child abuser. This is good. This is good. We're finally getting some recognition that she is a child abuser, right? Christian has a rational response, and this is sarcasm. I have to preface that this is sarcasm, but it is it's a rational response. It's not a rational response. He says, "I confide in her." Bro, confide in a therapist, not a literal child abuser, please. This isn't a good response. This doesn't make it right. It's terrible. Okay? And that's it. They move on. Away from the fact that she's a child abuser. I need to keep saying that, because apparently when writing this film, when writing the screenplay, and when even back in the early stages are writing this stupid fan fiction, E.L. James didn't even recognise that this was like a bad thing. Very dumb, okay? Instead, Anna asks what did Mrs. Robinson advise him to do, and he replies, "I'm here," as he strokes her face and hair with his fingers, also saying he has a hotel room booked, which to me indicates he wants sex, or at least is trying to use sex to get her away from the idea that he has literally just had a dinner with a child abuser. And not only a child abuser, his child abuser. The one that abused him. He doesn't have any children. Anyway, again, completely glossing over basically all of the valid concerns of Anna. And remember that little pattern I spoke of a little while ago, where Anna and Christian have an argument of some sorts, and then Christian uses a material possession or material possessions or something to dissipate any anger she has, or sex in this case. Well, it's another one of those, because we get a scene where they go flying together. Very cool. Pump Up the Ellie Goulding single that I'm sure was hot back in 2015, and we get cuts of the plane flying over fields, Anna's face lighting up with a smile, and any knowledge or anger around Christian going to see his abuser when he was a child, by the way, I need to keep saying that, has completely gone. This again, I'm reading the script now, and I actually can't remember. I'm pretty sure because I watched this film twice in preparation for this video. This isn't mentioned again in this film. It's kind of brought up again as we go through the series, but it's really not brought up again in this film. They just go about it like it was nothing. I'm not saying drop Christian there and then. I'm not saying leave him out in the cold. I'm not saying just to ignore him. But why doesn't Anna just try and talk to him? Or why don't they actually, talk at all? They have nothing in common, and that's been proven throughout this film. He needs help, and Anna is probably the only one who can get that help for him, and possibly even if she went and spoke to his parents, because now she knows where they live. But no, the story just ignores the fact that Christian was abused as a child. But they never address it face on, they never address it head on. And it just cuts to a montage of them in a plane to help you forget about it too. The film doesn't want you to dwell on this because it completely destructs and destroys every single romantic thing about this film when you remember everything he is doing is because he was abused as a child, and also he still has a rapport with the woman that abused him, and also he tries to use that the fact that he was abused as a way to sleep with a woman. It completely destroys any sympathy you have for Christian, and it takes you out of the movie. And that's something that the film producers, that the filmmakers, and also E.R. James, when writing and reading that book, they don't want you to realise, because they just want you to watch the film and take it all in. But speaking on a ignoring things and taking it in, on an entertainment level, these scenes just aren't interesting, visually either. They're just really boring, and I've spoke about the more sickening aspects, but there are fundamental aspects to this film that are just not there as well. This film is a complete cacophony of shit, and these scenes only serve to mask over important plot details that otherwise would probably help push the film forward. But instead, we get a 2-minute scene of them flying around to Ellie Goulding, eat away into this 2-hour movie. I would much more enjoy this film if they addressed and actually rectified and dealt with the idea that he was abused as a child. It would be much more interesting than them flying around in a plane. Like, imagine if this film ever tried to do something out of the box and attempted to basically have Mrs. Robertson go to jail. You know, that's the smallest thing that could happen that would, appease me in this movie. But that doesn't happen at all. And at the end of the series, this is a spoiler by the way, but who gives a fuck at this point? Who gives a fuck? At the end of the series, she doesn't get arrested, and admittedly she ends up with nothing, and Anna is then with Christian. But the thing is, she never gets any punishment for anything that she's done. And especially now that we're entering into the final 15 minutes, yes, we're entering into the final 15 minutes, you'd expect things of importance to start happening, and I just realised we're on to the final 15 minutes. I feel like nothing has happened. Even when I've been reading the script, I feel like nothing of importance has happened. I know I've cut things out because they're not important, but nothing has happened. Instead, the film feels like a clear Act 1, admittedly, and an Act 2, but never seems to end the second act. We never seem to get a third act in this film, because everything that could happen to bring this film to a clear finish, maybe addressing the fact that he was abused as a child, maybe if they were to do that, there would have been a third act. But instead, we get nothing of importance, and I'll get into that as we go along. Christian then gets a call and has to rush back to Seattle, so you'd think this is the big moment. This is the final hurrah of the film. Whatever's on the end of that phone is something really, really important that we need to take time away from addressing the fact that, he was abused as a child. We're going to get a big tense scene where Christian has to do something, or their relationship is put to the test because of this new development, and the latter is somewhat true. Instead, they go to the playroom. Well, for obviously sex. What else? They got a Jenga set in there, bro? They playing Jenga, Snakes and Ladders? No, they go and have sex. We do get another scene of him playing the piano, so I was, double right on that. I'm just saying. I'm not gonna have a big moment again. I'm just saying I got it right twice, okay? Anna, however, does attempt to talk to Christian about his troubles here, and this is a good thing. I do like the fact that we are addressing his troubles, we're addressing his past, we're addressing the things that have made him, psychologically, need help psychologically. He needs to go to a therapist. And we need to come to some conclusion. In my opinion, we need to get to a point where Mrs. Robertson is cut out of this person's life, because very clearly, she is the reason for all of his sadistic and all of his psychological issues, basically. Christian doesn't say much, and this is, if you've ever had any mental health issues, you should know that, people aren't really forthcoming straight away, and you need to basically get to know them more. And that's, again, something that these two people just don't have. They don't know each other. They know nothing about each other apart from, the fact that he saved her from a cyclist. As I said, Christian doesn't really say much, and Anna then asks about the contract, whether he's feeling annoyed or down because she hasn't signed it, to which Christian says, fuck the contract, I think it's a bit redundant now, don't you? As I said before, it served literally no purpose but to move the story along, so It's completely useless. It's literally just moved the story along. And unlike a film like Casablanca, where the papers or whatever they had in that film to get from point A to point B, at least the story between those walls was interesting. Instead here, we've got a total ignorance over an important plot point that would make the film a lot more interesting, and a load of scenes of them in cars and planes. However, even though the contract is void, Christian says the rules still stand, and when Anna asks what happens when they're broke, he simply replies with punishment. Anna then challenges him on this, saying that she feels the same way about him punishing her as he does touching him, and as throughout the film Anna hasn't been allowed to touch his chest due to several burn marks, so we finally get some confrontation head-on over their differences. As I said, this is a good thing. Christian then states he has a need, not a desire to punish her, and when challenged on this he states, because it's the way I am. And then he goes, because I'm 50 shades of fucked up. And when this happened in my first watch through, I fucking cackled like a witch. This line is the best line in the entire film because it encapsulates how bad this film is. Okay? And if you can't see why, I'll just play the clip for you.
Because I'm 50 shades of fucked up.
However, we now get into the final few moments of the film. Anna says, show me then, wanting to see how bad Christian can be. This isn't a sexual moment at all for Anna. She's in tears and is very clearly upset. This is the only sex scene I'll really talk about, as all the others are romanticised, and this isn't really a sex scene either. It's a scene in the Red Room, and I've mainly been keeping away from the Red Room because I don't really think anything that happens in this room is of anything of importance or interest. But this scene is, and that's because Anna has her back turned to Christian throughout the scene. They never embrace or do anything explicitly sexual at all. Christian then explains he will hit her 6 times and she will count with him, hitting her across the ass and potentially the vagina, but to be honest, I'm not asking for a shot of it, and I don't really want to know which of the two it is. But I'm going to go with the ass because it's clearly where he's hitting her. Okay, I'm just getting flashbacks of Casino Royale when the French dude, I can't remember his name, Le Chiffre. I remembered his name. Look at me, I'm on the ball today. When Le Chiffre whips, I'm pretty sure this happens. He whips James Bond's balls. I think that's like the memory I have of this, and that's why I put 2 and 2 together. Anyway, I won't show you the scene because I do think it's probably the most fucked up, or I'm not even going to say the words he's just said, but it's the most fucked up out of all the scenes because it's simply just like pure pain. Anna cries through most of this, and Christian is clearly enjoying himself with shots of his face, and we see that he's enjoying himself. After the 6th hit, Christian attempts to touch Anna, to which she pushes him away and says, no, don't fucking touch me. I think there's perhaps some symbolism with her being naked and him being fully clothed within this scene, as there is no other scene where they're in the Red Room or performing a sadistic act or a sexual act, and one is naked but the other isn't. Typically, Christian just wears jeans, so his chest is exposed, but in this scene he wears a shirt too. Call this tentative analysis, call this what you want, but it's my analysis and it's my opinion. And we've already had so many, take my word for it, thinking too hard into it, so give me this one, okay? But I see the nakedness of Anna here to show her vulnerability, but also her power. Not only has she exposed herself to the wickedness fully of Christian, but now she commands the scene and the moment, whereas Christian, fully clothed, is trapped within his own sadism and also in his inability to communicate. Take that for what you will. I understand if it's just me overthinking again, especially as prior in the film I've gone through, several moments where they are a little bit tentative, and also prior in the film Christian tells Anna to be proud of her nakedness as well. So that's another reason why I'm thinking that the naked aspect is an important thing here. And also at the beginning of the film, Anna is shy and not commanding at all. She's, as I said, an average Joe. She's not as intimidating as she calls Christian in the early moments of the film. So I'll give the film one thing. Anna's arc is there, and she does progress as a character. She goes from a shy, insular, very singular character to a character who has grown and has gone through things. Christian, on the other hand, is still a vapid shell of a human being who still needs help, and he never really gets that help at all throughout the series, apart from in the final moments, I believe in the 3rd film, in Freed, when finally he is disconnected from Mrs. Robinson. Anna commands this scene, keeping Christian away with just her words, and even covering up so he can't see her. And again, we get a decent piece of shot composition here with Christian highlighted through the bed frame. I believe it's the bed frame anyway, which presents him as trapped, or at the very least alone. So again, you know, there's some minor details here and there in the film that are at least, you know, worthy of analysis. Finally, we get the final, believe it or not, scenes between the pair. Christian says everything he needs, so make note of the wording in that sentence and the next sentence I was going to say. Anna says she's fallen in love with him. To me, they both want something different here out of the other. Anna wants him and only him, but Christian needs her, as in he needs her so he can punish her and get off. Anna instead desires a relationship with him, being a romantic. Also, a minute bonus point for the use of rain as pathetic fallacy. It's a technique you learn very early on in school, but at least it sets the tone for the scene to be perfect, reflecting the sadness of both characters. It wouldn't be the same if this was like a normal, you know, a sunny day, you know, sun shining through the windows. It just wouldn't have the same effect. So at least, you know, they got this right. The final moment of the two arrives, a parallel scene to the early scene of the two, where Anna was leaving the town in an elevator. Anna commands Christian to sail back away from her, and we get an exchange of names as we did in the earlier scene, and the doors close as we cut to black. That earlier scene I was talking about wasn't one I covered, but basically it was their exit, or specifically Anna's exit from his office and his penthouse, whatever, in the earlier scene where they've just been interviewed. But we're not done there. We get Anna crying in the car, Christian running in the rain, and a montage of their quote-unquote happier moments with, you guessed it, a song that was probably released the same year of the film. And the film finally ends. That's it. Overall, the film has its moments, I'll give it that, from the very basic elements such as set and costume design to music and sound, which in most mainstream films it's pretty hard to fuck up with. And then there's some surprising brief flashes of symbolism and metaphor throughout, which all provide a very healthy amount of intrigue and at least things you can go back when you watch the film through. I'm not suggesting you watch the film, I'm not suggesting you go back and watch it a second time, please do not. But at least there's things there for people that do have and want to spend that time, and at least it does provide something a bit more interesting that is certainly lacking, especially from the second and third films, which provide none of this. However, the film lacks in the major element of entertainment. Perhaps, in my opinion, every film has to be somewhat engaging or entertaining in some way, and there are, as I've said, there are moments where the symbolism is interesting, but in a 2-hour film, I'm not going to be looking at a piece of wallpaper for more than like 2 minutes. Let's be honest. And especially as you feel every second of the 2-hour runtime with uninteresting characters, underdeveloped and underwritten, and in some cases poorly acted, in especially the case of Jamie Dornan. Also, while the ending does provide a glimmer of hope that the relationship is at an end and Anna has escaped, well, I'll just say this. The first thing that happens in the next film, literally the first thing that happens in the next film, is that they get back together. Now that's 50 Shades of fucked up. I'm sorry.